So it was Braden Point who scored his NHL leading 10th goal of the playoffs last time out, while Nikita Kucherov chipped in with 2 assists for those playing our showdown contest tonight. Are you going to be inclined to captain a member of the Lightning tonight, Geoff?
Yeah, I definitely think that going, with one of the big line in your captain spot isn't the worst idea here. I mean, Tampa's offense certainly got off to a good start. And look, the Islanders have been better at home than they have been on the road in these playoffs, but I don't mind. And I don't mind going with the cheapest member there in Andre Palat. I mean, obviously it's a coming out party for Braden Point, but at some point the goal streak is going to end, and he may end up being a bit more of a feeder than just a finisher. So I think Palat is actually really interesting. It lets you stack the rest of the Tampa Bay first line in your showdown lineup, and he had 5 shots and a goal last game. Could be heating up, so I like getting a piece of that first line for sure. I think Tampa's first line probably continues to produce in this game 3.
Paul, you going to captain a member of the Lightning tonight? Yay or nay?
You know what? First, Geoff has to take a bow for that great call on Carey Price last night. I commend you, sir. Great call. These guys that you mentioned have earned their stripes as top playoff performers and leading the Lightning to the Cup win last year, and have doubled down their efforts so far in 2021 playoffs. So they'd be great captain picks tonight if you believe, as I do, that the Islanders are the Bolts are the better team in this series. However, they will face an Islanders team in front of a rabid fan base, a super amped environment to start the game. That means the pressure is going to be on Vasilevsky to hold the fort during the first period. I say he does, and he gets the win. He's my captain's pick tonight.
AJ, which team will your captain be playing for tonight?
I'm going to stick with the Isles here. No time to bail now, especially not as they're moving home, as Paul said, into Nassau Coliseum. Look, Mathew Barzal still scored a goal, even in the Game 2 loss. So at 13-2, he's a little bit cheaper than some of the top guys there. And he just continues to keep rolling and keep producing. And I think he will tonight. Even if it is a close game, even if they don't win, I think using him as your captain is a viable strategy for a guy that's just unstoppable right now.
AJ, how about a good value play for this showdown?
I'm going to stick with the Islanders here. I think it's a good time to use Kyle Palmieri. Price dipping to 5,600. No points in his last 2 games, but he did put 2 shots on goal in each of those contests there. And so I think it's going to happen here for him. He's going to get back on the scoreboard here. He ended the Boston series on a 3-game goal streak. A little bit of a slump here, but I think he'll be right back at it tonight.
Paul, value. Help me out.
You know what? Geoff picked Cirelli a couple of games ago. It didn't work out then, but his price point is still low, despite his second line role between Stamkos and Killorn, along with the fact that he's had a fine shots on goal rate of 21 in his last 10 games played. He was blanked in the last game. I say he has a much bigger impact and a bounce back effort, and he'll cost you only $7,000 tonight.
Okay, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Paul's right. I mean, these Tampa Bay second, third liners, they seem like pretty good values here, and I think part of it is they're just going through a little bit of cold streaks. And Blake Coleman is another player I really don't mind targeting here. He had 15 goals this year. I mean, he hasn't scored a goal in over 10 games, but this is he's a pretty solid goal scorer for a role player. And at some point, this is going to, bust his way. Obviously, he's got multiple shots on goal in 4 of the last 5 games as well. Coleman at 4,400 is the type of guy who could definitely, just give your showdown, lineup a boost. I expect a low scoring game. So, you could get obviously, not many points from these guys, but at the very least, Coleman is firing the puck on net every game. So yeah, you've got that there at 4,400. And I think he's just a little bit underpriced.
So the Islanders as a whole, 4-2 at home during the playoffs. You got to think as well, one of those losses was in overtime. That was that Marchand miracle goal that they seem to certainly benefit from the atmosphere at the Coliseum, at the barn, and the odds really reflect that. They've been a big underdog in the series, but are only, plus 118 on the money line in game 3. Should they be a bigger underdog here, Paul?
You know what? This is a big spot for the home side to show that they are really ready to share the stage with the defending champs. The money line gets it right, I think, because you can certainly make a case for both sides of this thing. But I think it's also a fair reflection to go either way then. So this will be a close one. I expect a 1-goal game. I'm sure we can each make a strong case for both teams, but I'm going to lean in favor of the Bolts championship pedigree to come out on top in this one.
Okay, AJ, which way are you leaning?
I'm going to go with the Islanders. I think the home ice advantage is huge for them, as you alluded to off the top, Emerson. I think they just know how to play in that building. They get fired up by the crowd. And look, it's just a nightmare for a lot of teams. They've got plenty of offense right now. It's been a little stymied the last couple of games. Vasilevsky will do that to you, but I think they break through tonight and come out on top in Game 3.
Yeah, Geoff, they're a passionate bunch. The fans are passionate. They're rowdy there. This is their last season in this building before they open up a new one. So you want to side with the Islanders here?
I mean, of course I want to side with the Islanders, but I'm going to have to apologize to AJ because it looks like Paul and I are definitely in lockstep tonight. I just don't want to bet against the Tampa Bay Lightning anymore. And I think Paul nailed this one. I think this line is very appropriately set. I don't think that the Islanders should be any bigger than this, but at the same time, you're getting a pretty good price here to take the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, in these type of situations, I tend to just side with the better team. And, Tampa, again, they made me look foolish against Carolina. I just don't want that to happen again. This line, you could easily just say, maybe just lay off it tonight. But if I'm choosing a money line target, it's probably going to be Tampa tonight. I kind of want to just see it from the Islanders. I want to see them be able to take it at home before I bet on them. Maybe Game 4 is a better spot. I don't know, but I'll slightly side with the Lightning here. Excuse me.
AJ, Game 1 going under, Game 2 going over. Total for Game 3 is set at 5. Which way are you leaning?
I'm going to take the over here, and I think that has to do with the fact that I'm backing the Islanders, right? Like if this is a low-scoring game, I don't think it suits them well because it likely means that Vasilevsky really continues to stymie the offense here. So I'm going to take the over, and I'll go all the way up, as I always do, to over 5.5 here just to avoid the push and get a little more value.
Paul, how about you?
Man, the stakes are so high in a pivotal game in this series, and that means there'll be nerves. There'll be little in the way of risk-taking. There'll be a lot of close checking. I also think that these goalies are on top of their games with neither one expected to blink under the pressure. I'm expecting a 2-1 game, 3-1 maybe. And all that adds up to a low-scoring total. I'll take the under, thanks.
Geoff?
Yeah, on the under as well. I think you could go into the alternate puck totals in this one too. You could even think about the 4.5 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. That's available at plus 180. I think that's fine. And if you want a little bit more, just sort of security, I mean, even minus 150 at under 5.5 is fine as well. So I like the under as well. I agree with Paul again. Game 3, it seems like it's going to be a tight checking one. There's so much on the line, like he said. I think you can even look at the OT line in this one and aim for the tie as well. Again, just the rate at which the Islanders have played OT games, you're probably destined to see at least 1 or 2 in this series. So all things considered, like the under tonight.
Hey, Paul, give us a prop you like for this game.
When it comes to player props in this game, I think Geoff and I are going to talk about the same guys. It seems we're, like you said, in lockstep. The most favorable bets are on the side. That means 2 scoring lines for Tampa going tonight. I like the second one. Killorn, Andre Palat, Cirelli are guys that are sidekicks to these guys in the top 6. Each of those guys will play high leverage minutes on the power play too, and that could be pivotal in terms of their game total. My top choice of this trio is Killorn. He had a 5-game point streak snapped, and he's been the better and more consistent of the 3 scorers that I mentioned here. So I'll take him at plus 205.
AJ, what's your prop bet here that you like?
Well, not surprisingly, it's going to be Mathew Barzal at plus 205 to score a goal. But to give you something else, I'll also look at Jordan Eberle plus 285 to get a goal here. I think that's a good spot for him, a good price for him. We've talked about the prices for the Islanders being pretty solid in terms of value for you throughout the way. I think those 2 guys are going to be part of leading the way tonight.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think, I'll just go back to my showdown pick there of Palat. I mean, minus 118 to get a piece of, one of the Tampa Bay Lightning's top line players just to score a point. This is just to score a point. So minus 118, I think that's fine. Again, it's playing alongside 2 supreme players in Kucherov, Braden Point. So I like that. And on the flip side, look, I mean, I've said this like every show that the Islanders are on, but the Islanders forwards are pretty good value in the player prop department. Anthony Beauvillier, plus 115 hasn't done that much in this series yet. But I mean, again, he's just been a prolific point producer in the playoffs. And even during the regular season, this is a big price at plus 115 just to score a point. So both good values you're getting there on the player props.
Yeah, speaking of price, before we wrap up here, guys, just last night, you've got Montreal upsetting Vegas there on the road. And Geoff, I know, as we mentioned earlier in the segment, how big you were on Carey Price like yesterday. I mean, he seemed to be the difference in that one.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, it's again, Carey Price is just someone you should not underestimate in the playoffs. I mean, I've learned that from watching him too much. He can look a little bit shaken. He can look, he can get a little bit fired up. But I mean, this guy just knows how to get himself up for the big playoff games. He's not going to be intimidated. He's not going to be intimidated by the Vegas barn, whatever. So Carey Price, I think, is going to make this series a little bit longer than we possibly predicted at the start of it. Whether it's enough to get it done, I don't know. I'd still probably side with Vegas here, but we could see a couple extra games. Wouldn't shock me.
Paul, does Montreal, did that win last night kind of prove to, maybe even themselves or their haters that they actually belong here on this stage?
Well, can you imagine how good they're feeling, guys? They had all their injured guys back in the lineup. They can say, when we had all hands on deck, we beat this team. We were injured in the first game. That's our excuse. I think they got to be feeling sky high as they're flying back home for the next two games. And that's going to be some atmosphere. Even though there are only 3,500 fans, they'll be noisy. And it will be an interesting game to watch for sure.
Yeah, because AJ, I feel like they were catching a lot of flack for coming out of a weak division. So how much do you feel like that win last night gave them a boost entering tomorrow, game 3, in which they are underdogs at home right now?
Well, I think it'll give them a boost for sure, but I also think the game 2 could serve as a wake-up call for the Golden Knights to say, look, reminder, Carey Price on the other end of the ice. Like, we need to get pucks on net. We need to do, the dirty work, as you will, in hockey and get to the front of the net and make life difficult for him. So while I do think it'll be a boost for the Habs, I think it also serves as a wake-up call for the Golden Knights if they were thinking they were going to just cruise in the series, because they're certainly not going to with that netminder.